Joining us now, the Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. He's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee supporting Hillary Clinton. Senator, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.
Last hour, we spoke with a Donald Trump supporter, Republican Congressman Chris Collins of New York. So how much help does Hillary Clinton really need to get President Obama's successful coalition, minorities, young people, women, out there to the polls in order to be elected President of the United States?
Well, Wolf, it's always helpful to have a strong ground game, and it's always helpful to have great surrogates, Vice President Biden, President Obama, and others out there on the campaign trail. But the most important thing is that Secretary Clinton sweats the details. She's got great policies. She's got good and strong and clear ideas for how to solve the very real problems facing America and to keep us safe and strong. So I frankly think it is great to have President Obama stirring up the crowd in Philadelphia. It's great that we've got a good get out the vote plan and that the Clinton campaign is very well organized. But it's most important that she's a terrific and strong candidate.
The president made this first solo campaign visit to Pennsylvania. That's curious because Pennsylvania, neighboring to Delaware, it's a state that Democrats have been winning in presidential contests since the 90s. It's pretty reliably Democratic as far as presidential contests are concerned. Trump says he's going to win Pennsylvania. Are Democrats concerned right now about Pennsylvania, and that's why the campaign sent the president there?
Well, Wolf, I think the president was there partly because we have an important Senate race, partly because Trump can't win if he doesn't win Pennsylvania, and partly to engage with one of the most important states from the perspective of our Democratic base. I don't think we're worried about Pennsylvania, but I think it's prudent, it's wise, it's important to highlight and to invest in getting out our base in Pennsylvania and engaging with the voters across the state of Pennsylvania on why Secretary Clinton's got a better plan, a better path forward for our country.
Yeah, I listened to the entire speech that the president delivered, and almost all of it involved the presidential campaign. There were some brief references to that Senate race that you're talking about in Pennsylvania. Transparency is such a key campaign issue right now. So did the Clinton campaign, Senator, make a major mistake by not immediately disclosing her medical diagnosis with pneumonia?
Well, if I don't think this was a major mistake, those of us who've been on the campaign trail or covered people on the campaign trail know just how hard she works, how determined she is to just kind of power through anything in her way. I don't think folks will hold it against her for believing that with just a little rest, she'd be able to get right back out on the campaign trail. They've addressed it promptly. And when you stack this up against developments in the Trump campaign, some of the outrageous things he's been saying and Mike Pence refusing to disown the Ku Klux Klan leader, I don't think the fact that she had a bad afternoon and a hot day is going to amount to much at all compared to the very real challenges her opponent faces.
But her doctor told her on Friday that pneumonia is very serious, especially if you're over 65 years old. She's 68, almost 69 years old. Next month, she'll be 69 years old, and recommended that she rest for a few days to deal with it, take the antibiotics and rest. She rejected, as she herself told Anderson Cooper last night, she rejected that advice, and she went out there, and we all saw what happened when she nearly collapsed trying to get into that van. That all could have been avoided if she would have accepted her doctor's advice.
That may be true, Wolf, but that's the Secretary Clinton I've gotten to know. When I've had the chance, the honor to travel with her overseas, she goes very hard. She works tirelessly. She puts every ounce of energy she's got into the job of serving our country. And to me, frankly, that's an admirable quality, even if perhaps her doctor would have preferred her to take a day off and rest. This is someone who sweats the details, who works tirelessly, and who's got a big heart for the American people. And I frankly don't think folks will hold this against her very long. It just reflects how strong she is and how hard she works on the campaign trail.
But as you know, if you take a look at the polls, Senator, she has a problem with the voters when it comes to trust. Look at this. We asked the question, who is more honest and trustworthy? 50% said Donald Trump. Only 35% said Hillary Clinton. That's a problem for her. How does she deal with that?
Well, I think both candidates have struggled to connect with the American people at a time when there is record distrust in government, in those who seek public office, and in whether or not the government can meet the very real needs of the people of the United States. I think the way Secretary Clinton deals with this question, this issue, is by being authentic, by talking with people, by listening to voters, and by doing what she's been doing, which is both to put forward really good and strong policy ideas, and to have those of us who've served with her and know her go out and campaign on her behalf and share the stories that come from years of service together.
John McCain released 8 years of medical records back in 2008 when he was running for president of the United States. He was at the time 70 or 71 years old. He allowed reporters, including our own Dr. Sanjay Gupta, to interview his doctors for hours and hours. Should both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump do the same thing now?
Well, I think it's important, as you said, Wolf, for there to be more transparency. Secretary Clinton's already released, I think, 40 years of her tax returns. We have yet to see a single tax return from Donald Trump. I do think more transparency around their health records would be positive, too. And Secretary Clinton's already said she's going to be taking steps in that direction.
But do you think they should go as far as what John McCain did, because they're roughly the same age that he was?
Well, here's what I do know is that Donald Trump releasing some records on the Dr. Oz show and releasing a trumped-up letter from a doctor about his medical condition isn't going to win any points for transparency. I do think both candidates ought to be more fully transparent about their health records, and if that's what comes out of this very minor incident, that's probably a good thing for the electorate and for the American election.
All right, Senator, I want you to stand by. We have more to discuss, including latest reports that the Russians may try to hack and influence the U.S. presidential contest. Getting new information on that, Senator Coons, stay with us. We'll be right back. Following the breaking news this hour, President Obama slamming Donald Trump in his first solo campaign appearance for Hillary Clinton. The president detailed her qualifications and said Trump, and I'm quoting him now, isn't fit in any way, shape, or form to be commander-in-chief. We're back with Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, the National Security Agency Director, Admiral Mike Rogers, said today he's deeply concerned about possible U.S. election hacks. I want you to listen to Admiral Rogers.
This continues to be an issue of great focus, both for the foreign intelligence community, attempting to generate insights as to what foreign nations are doing in this area.
It's the first time we've seen attempted interference in elections in the United States of America, isn't it, Admiral?
Sir, we continue to see activity of concern. Again, I'm not going to characterize this activity.
CNN recently reported that White House officials are cautious about saying Russia is to blame for the cyber attacks, in part because the U.S. presidential election is so soon. So how real, Senator, is this fear of Russian retaliation, if you will?
I think this is a very real concern, Wolf. I led a bipartisan congressional delegation to Eastern Europe this summer and was really struck at how broad the actions by Russia have been across Europe, both overt and covert actions that they've taken to interfere with elections and with civil society and with political activity all across Eastern, Central, and Western Europe. Their goal, I think, is to divide the United States and Europe, to undermine NATO. And given the earlier hacks into the DCCC, the DNC, that have been connected to Russian hackers, I do think we should take this very seriously.
Has enough been done to make these elections safe here in the United States?
I don't think so. Elections are controlled very much at the local level. We have invested in modernizing our election systems over the last decade, but as we saw in recent elections, there are still some serious problems in terms of the operations of our elections at the state and county level. So I frankly will think we should be paying close attention to this, particularly given that Vladimir Putin has demonstrated an affection for one candidate over the other, and given the very troubling signals that have been sent by Donald Trump to our allies in Eastern Europe about how he views Putin and the importance of our NATO alliances.
Iran threatened to shoot down 2 U.S. Navy aircraft over the weekend as they were flying just inside the Strait of Hormuz in an international airspace. This coming after the U.S. provided, $1.7 billion in cash to Iran, and another $100 billion or so could be on the way right now, part of this whole deal that you supported, Senator, this Iran nuclear deal. With hindsight, given what you know right now, should the U.S. have made that nuclear deal with Iran?
Well, so far, the deal has held as I characterized it, the least bad option that we had before us. Let's just review what's happened. Iran really has set aside its nuclear program. They have shipped out of their country the overwhelming majority, 98% of their enriched uranium. They've shut down their enrichment centrifuges and filled the core of their potential plutonium reactor with concrete. They've taken some of the big steps they said they would, and they've allowed in searching inspections that have given us better insight into what's going on in their nuclear program and in their science programs than we've ever had. There are, of course, ongoing and real reasons for us to distrust Iran, and I have pushed hard in the Senate and with the administration for us to impose further sanctions against their human rights violations, their support for terrorism, and their illicit ballistic missile launches. There's lots of irritants in our relationship, Wolf, including the ongoing mystery about what the Iranians did with Bob Levinson, an American FBI agent who was almost certainly taken captive by the Iranians many years ago.
And still is missing as we speak right now. Senator, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.